On today's Spring Festival edition of World Insight with Tian Wei, rekindling the past, how traditional Chinese culture got its groove back with the rising popularity of the iconic Forbidden City. Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei, on CGTN. Today we'll bring you the Spring Festival special, The Past Rekindled. We wish you a very happy Chinese New Year. All through China's 5,000-year history, the country has developed a long-standing cultural tradition unique among world civilizations. In this age and time, Chinese traditional culture has gone through an incredible renaissance. While new technology spurred some of its resurgence, in large part reflects the changing mindsets of the consumers here in China. They're inspired to rediscover and treasure the Chinese culture.
Ringing in the new year in the Forbidden City. For the first time, with a record-breaking number of cultural relics, the public could experience the traditional imperial celebrations of the Spring Festival. Lanterns, auspicious couplets, pictures of guardian gods, decorating the palace with festival ornaments. This shrine to the past, from the seat of power in imperial China, now linked to a vibrant modern present. From Chinese-style paper tapes to limited edition lipsticks, with designs or branding inspired by the past, the creative products often cause a buzz among the Chinese youth.
做那个猫吧，那个还蛮可爱的。
咱们它种类非常的多，而且设计也非常的多，就是非常适合我们不同人群的需求，我很喜欢。
就买了这个日历，然后觉得红色特别喜庆嘛，然后就去了 VR， 然后通过那个 VR 看到那个民间群特别宏伟。
最近有几个比较火的节目是国家宝藏和上新了悟空。国家宝藏就有这个千里江山，我就觉得千里江山特别的好看，那幅画。
Historical dramas and TV shows also ignited the public's growing enthusiasm. From stories based on Chinese history to the exploration of unknown palaces, and from treasure mysteries to relic restorers, emotional letters to classic poems, China's historical culture and tradition have become a hit. In this digital age, traditional culture also embraces new technology. Virtual museums create an opportunity for visitors to touch the art behind the scenes. Audiences get immersed, virtually living in history through VR. A chance for us in the modern world to experience history in a whole new way. But still, the future depends on the ability to never stop innovating. Content can pave the way for new experiences, shaping the landscapes of traditional culture in step with modern times.
All right, for more on this, in our Beijing studio, we have a very strong panel. Professor Teng Jimeng, a freelance movie critic and cultural commentator. Beatrice Lianza, the co-founder of the Global School and head of overseas program for Beijing Design Week. Last but certainly not least, Andrew James, the co-founder of Cultural Key. That's a school helping non-Chinese to learn about Chinese culture.
Exactly.
Good to see all the three of you. Let's start with you, Beatrice. As a curator yourself, how do you see Forbidden City's drive in order to let more people know about their Chinese culture, the way they did it, such as here?
Well, it's quite sensational what they've managed to achieve. Definitely startled me too. I hadn't been in Forbidden City in a long time, and I went back actually quite recently, and I was quite impressed actually by the overall revival, of the tools that they're using to get people in, from the new cosmetics down to actually, all the sort of digital new applications, and platforms that they have.
Right.
They're a great entry point, like for people to dig further.
Right. I didn't use the lipstick they recommend to match today's program, but I hope the words that we are expressing here could really match the spirit. What about for you, Andrew?
I think anything that increases accessibility is a good thing. Whichever path you want to take, whatever you're doing to help people get closer to your culture, whatever that is,
right.
I think that's definitely a good thing for everyone.
But is there anything that they did in a way could impress you as someone who's trying to promote Chinese culture? Is there something they do can inspire you?
The use of technology. Obviously, you know, that's what we're told is the future, you know, moving towards digitalization of media and knowledge and culture and history. So their use of that and using that to move things forward and say, you know, this is who we are, this is what we've done, this is where we're going, I think that's great.
What about for you, Professor Tang? When was your last time in the Forbidden City?
Well, last week.
Right.
Yeah, I paid a visit to this very grand palace, usually known as the Hall of Harmony, and right now I'm so very, impressed by the hangouts they have right now. In addition to the technology they use, I think that what they are doing right now so good is they are hanging out all those great paintings. The paintings, the Chinese god, the stove god, the door gods, and all these kind of gods that we now see out there in person almost. Right. But it's not on the computer screen, but it's the painting, the original painting on the doors. And so the availability right now is improved. Before, back in the past, it was out of the bounds of the common visitors and people and residents of this very great city, but now they're out there. The lanterns, all these relics out there.
But you know, Professor Tang, I'm sure we can compare a little bit notes here. I remember when I was really, really small, we still have access to go into the halls of the Forbidden City to really have a look at where the emperors and the empresses were. The chair they sit on. We could even touch a little bit the standing pose where they are stepping on in order to get that chair. But now it's different. So with this kind of accessibility going to satisfy, the modern generation of viewers and visitors?
Well, absolutely. I think it's going to satisfy the curious, the very persons or the very people who wanted to learn. This generation is curious. They are also tech savvy, and they could use technology to get themselves available to or exposed to these great treasures. And so in this sense, I think, with these relics, plus the use of technology, they are making the great things available, and in a sense, sometimes available commercially to people. They're selling some of these replicas, which is also quite impressive.
Ultra high resolution scans of the art is now readily available at a very accessible price. So you're having copies in your homes that you can almost not distinguish the difference between the originals and these copies because of technology.
If you got a chance to have a copy of something, what would that be?
In my home?
A painting or a calligraphy?
Not either, actually. Stampings. Stampings, I guess you said that in English. So in our center, we have several replicas of stele from the Shaolin Temple that are these high-resolution scans of the original steles.
And what did they say on the steles?
They talk about the history and the culture of the Shaolin spirit.
What exactly is it? I'm sure every day when you're sitting in that room where the steles are standing right behind you, you would get certain kinds of spirit coming from them. What exactly are they?
The number one spirit of the Shaolin Temple especially is to keep moving forward. And that, that in itself is reflected in Chinese culture. The idea is that we don't stop, we don't give up. We always keep finding a way through. And that's like the centerpiece in my home and the center that we have, that the Shaolin spirit of always moving forward.
That's
the essence
beautiful.
of Kung Fu.
That's beautiful. When you have a piece that you believe is really coming from a long time ago, even a replica of it, but it still could provide certain kind of things that would kick the heart in a way. That's beautiful. For you, Beatrice, someone who's been working for the design industry, what's the next stage that they can try on?
Big question. I feel very
I could get
in the pressure
now. President, right?
but okay, I'll give it a try.
These two gentlemen only need to answer how they feel about it. But now you need to tell me about the experts' opinions.
Down to real business. I found actually a piece of news that for me was very fascinating. Talking about Forbidden City, they actually reopened not long ago, I think less than a year ago, an area of the palace that is where the original workshops were. So it's where actually they literally nowadays they preserve or regenerate, bring back to life original pieces from like the massive collection that the museum holds. And I think that this could be an actual a huge attractor, like for the huge number of practitioners like designer, architects, people in the creative field from fashion, either the performing arts, to be able to access the type of heritage in a different way. Because visual access and accessibility, it's a great tool. I think that creators want engagement. They don't want to just be consumers of culture. Exactly. They want to be producers of culture. And with the reservoir, of everything that the Forbidden City represents, I think there are so many more rooms that they could unlock.
Oh my God, there are so many more rooms. You wouldn't be able to imagine what are those heritages inside it. But having said that, though, I'm thinking about it. As you said, it's wonderful to have cultural products like this that's available on the market, and people love it and put it on the little table, and it's kind of cute. But the real thing about the Forbidden City, the thing that has been there for hundreds of years, the one that is in the artworks and is all about the masters of various dynasties, those things are people really desire for. But I wonder if, as you, as a curator, what specifically you would like to know?
I would want to see what is left in paper, like really printed on this so long, like forgiven or fast disappearing, like piece of communication. Yeah, I would say like
the texture. Yeah, of the paper.
Print culture. It's
and
so
the smell
important.
of a book that's been there for hundreds of years is just amazing.
Yes, that would be. My house is filled with books, so yes, I could be in a room filled with books for a long time.
I could tell that this is some kind of dream for a curator. But what about for you, Professor?
Well, books are absolutely one of my choice. But then, in addition to that very choice, I would like to see the furnitures. And also the wardrobes of the former royal families. In fact, my wife is a fashion designer, and she's so curious about the wardrobes of these royal families, and especially when The Last Emperor was made, Bertolucci was out there and making the film in that very palace compound. And so there's a whole lot of these fashion elements out there, and these are truly Chinese. I mean, Qing, be it Qing or be it Yuan or be it Ming, I mean, basically they are based out there, available now, being drawn upon as a source of inspiration.
I'm sure Mr. Shan Jixiang, who's the director of the Palace Museum, after listening to all your opinions, he will come up with some new inspirations for how the Forbidden City could be promoted further to the public, whether in China or beyond the country. And earlier, I did sit down with Mr. Shan Jixiang, the director of the Palace Museum. Let's listen into what he had to say about the work he's trying to do with his colleagues in the Forbidden City. Director Shan, but there's an ultimate question, that is, how much do we know, really, about our own civilization, our own culture? What do we know for us to establish this standard and the way to protect our own culture? That, I think, is the most difficult question.
This is the responsibility of all museums and other cultural institutions, to reveal the cultural significance behind our collections. Let's take, for example, our jade curation, the pride of the Forbidden City Museum. There are 32,000 pieces of jade in our museum, all linking back to 5,000 years of Chinese civilization. We unearthed jade objects representing ancient Hongshan culture, which originated in northeast China 5 millennia ago. Also, many pieces from southeastern China's Langchu culture, which also date back to the same period. But how do we tell the different stories of Chinese culture? That poses a great challenge for us. We have to carefully think about how to exhibit these pieces in order to enlighten the public both about our history and about our future.
Director Shan, a lot of people have been really wondering, what about the quality of contemporary Chinese culture? How does that compare to the ancient one that we used to have? how much can we really learn from the old examples to benefit us today? What is your thought?
当然，我不同意一种说法，就是今人不如古人。
I don't agree with the idea that our ancestors were any better than us. We've witnessed great developments brought by modern technology. The problem is that the world is filled with too much information. These collections are able to tell us about the spirit of craftsmanship, like carpenters or stone sculptors, who have achieved capability by devoting one's entire life to it. We can inherit the spirit from ancient culture and make our own contribution to society. You mentioned the drainage system in the Forbidden City. It was designed and constructed during the Ming Dynasty, and no doubt it has lasted long and served us well. But without careful maintenance over the past 500 years, it would have been destroyed. It's thanks to generations of effort, especially since the establishment of the museum 90 years ago, that the drainage system was well maintained and protected. The system we see today is an integration of the wisdom of our ancestors and contributions of modern society.
Welcome back. You're still watching our special program, The Charm of the Forbidden City. With me once again, Teng Jimeng, Beatrice Lianza, and also Andrew James. Earlier, we heard the quotes coming from Shan Jixiang, the director of the Palace Museum. Let me come back to you. I mean, this practice is not just in Forbidden City, but also in museums around the world. And I think, Beatrice, for example, at the Design Week you have every year in China, also something about building bridges is what you're trying to do, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much what I've been trying to do for the past few years. Well, the example you make of Beijing Design Week was yeah, literally that. It was trying to work with design and in Beijing with what design in Beijing and China can offer, but really trying to make local practitioners speak of the same issues that are spoken about globally, so same urgent issues, you know, like in dialogue. So that was the principle of trying to, you know, work not, let's say, for the more commercial or, you know, business-driven aspect of it, but really working more on the cultural aspect of what design does. And I think that is a part, let's say, a success story of what we did over the years, you know, with Beijing Design Week, and it was a great public event.
Right.
So
one could tell Beatrice is very much into the academic discussion about design. Andrew, for you, is the same?
No, I'm actually the complete opposite.
It's Brexit.
Did we invite the right people? Oh, okay.
Same as Brexit.
I'm more about the spirit of culture rather than the academic side of culture.
What about the spirits of culture you are trying to say here?
The idea that culture is not in objects, it's not in words, but more in feeling. So what we try and do, and what I try and do as a teacher, is to give people access to the spirit, not through physical objects, but through experiences. Because to really understand something, whether it's language or philosophy or history or culture, you have to experience it. Then you can take it into yourself.
Like what kind of experience? Describe to us.
Like, for example,
one of your favorites.
Like Tai Chi, for example. I'm a Tai Chi teacher. And people will say to me, so our course is like, you know, 1 week or 2 weeks, and people say, oh, but you can't really master something in such a short time. And we say, well, no, mastery of something takes a lifetime. I can show you like the first 8 moves of Tai Chi, and in that you get to experience it, but it's what you do after that in your own time and through your own experience will teach you, will help you master the culture.
What are the first 8 moves of Tai Chi? Describe to us.
Describe them.
You have to practice them, right? You have to move.
Yes, you move your hands. You got 1 move and 2 move and 3 move and 4 move and 5 moves.
What about them? Why are they crucial?
Crucial.
In terms of understanding of Tai Chi.
Again,
why would the first 8 moves of Tai Chi would open the door for us about Tai Chi?
Because the 8 basic movements of Tai Chi contain the core understanding
what
of it.
What exactly is it then?
So like the external door, the internal door, the upper door, the lower door, the inside of the body, the outside of the body, all of these are reflected through the 8 essential moves. So to understand, it's with anything though. The more inside you get something, the more simple it becomes. So, you know, you have how many different versions of Yang style Tai Chi? You know, you have the 108,
and the
then
Chen
the 88.
style. We've been talking to the Chen masters of the 13th generation also in our last program. So exactly what you said. So you have to do it.
Yes.
Be part of it.
You have to be part of it. You have to have hands-on.
Have a door opener for you.
Yes.
And that will be something. Love that. Professor Teng, for you, I mean, you are gifted in the way you are Chinese. I mean, you grow up in all of these cultures. You do not have to struggle like Andrew or Beatrice did in order to find the key. The key are in your hand.
I would do the both. I mean, I would do the both. I would value the spirit which comes out of this very process of lifelong learning, the hands-on practice. For example, cooking Chinese food. I need the object. I mean, like you, I need the object. I need a direct exposure to Dao so that I can make it into a wrapping and wrap it into and make it into a dumpling, a jiaozi, and also with the filling. And so I need the object. I need this very hands-on thing, but I need the practice so that I can be more, in a sense, experienced. Because there are different shape of jiaozi in China and different fillings jiaozi here in China. And so I would do the move. I would imitate my mom and my wife at one point, and then I would continue to do it on myself, like the 8 to 10 moves basically, and then you're in the kitchen. And
well,
then
I
the
have to say, making jiaozi is a little bit different from doing Tai Chi, okay? but okay, well, there are different opinions. You better invite this gentleman to your house for a dumpling banquet.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right. And then
the point is that you are in this culture.
Right.
And you're part of this culture.
Yes.
Will you be able to, as they say, when you are in the mountain, really see what this mountain looks like?
No, well, absolutely not. I mean, as the Chinese saying goes, when you're in the mountain, you don't see what's around. It takes an outsider to look from afar to see clearly what's inside this very in this very mountain or this very hill out there. And it takes a Taoist monk, perhaps. And so the Chinese culture would emphasize this very exile into the very nature, and then the harmony of this very human being, this very human person, with that very nature that he's going to be embedded himself in.
Well, but one thing is very interesting, that it is always a continuing process of discovering. And the process is not just about us who originally, quote-unquote, belongs to this culture, but also through so-called a third eye. In this sense, I guess Beatrice and also Andrew could help us in a way to look at what they consider as important as part of that culture, and we can rediscover in a way as a result. So Andrew, I want to come back to you. I love the earlier analogies you made. Is there any case studies of your Chinese friends, when listening to your explanation, realize, there's something about their own culture that they haven't necessarily yet digging into?
That is what I hear more than anything else.
There we go.
When whether it's my friends or new friends or taxi drivers, and I start telling them my understanding and experience of Chinese culture, the first thing I'll hear from 9 out of 10 people is, wow, you know so much about Chinese culture.
For a long way, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, oh, a foreigner knows so much about Chinese culture and Chinese history and this and this. Oh, you know more than I do. And it's what I hear more often than anything else when they say that.
And do you take it as a compliment? Do you take it as appreciation?
You shouldn't.
You know, this is the thing. When I started hearing this 10 years ago, and I would always find it insulting to say that. But now I see it more as genuine surprise and appreciation that a foreigner takes such interest and love and care of Chinese culture.
I think it's interesting to see. It's very interesting, the example you just raised. But I always wondered whether the commercialization or the door opener like this will be able to lead us to a deeper layer of thinking eventually, Beatrice. Since you are already there for us.
Me there. Well, I am biased in a way, you know, because it's not a wrong path or a judgment in that sense. But let's say that I choose professionally to lean on another side. So yeah, I think the danger is there, but I also think that culturally it's, you know, culture has multiple layers, and you can engage in many different ways.
Exactly.
So it depends on which side you want to lean on.
Right. If you think about, you know, your area, contemporary art, for example, Xu Bing, which is one of the most well-known Chinese contemporary artists, the exhibition of his earlier in 2018 was a great success. You see the crowds that's being drawn into the museum to see his exhibition. It's amazing. People just want to try to practice the Chinese characters written in the Xu Bing way. And that is also serving as an opener of culture for many when it comes to Chinese contemporary art. So the thing is, whether people will be able to do it both in the most sophisticated way, so-called academic, and also the so-called most simple way. But actually, the latter is not the easy one. It's probably even more difficult.
But I also think that this is exactly the place of cultural institutions
That's
and museums,
exactly.
you know, to navigate these layers. So, you know, opening the door, holding your hand for a little bit, and then taking you instead, you know, through the actual, let's say, hardcore experience of what it is. And to speak of Xu Bing's exhibition, I mean, I think that that was very successful because it actually went through his entire oeuvre that showed him 1980s, you know, like printmaker, you know, like an illustrator, you know, down to how he completely revolutionized, you know, like that journey. That was great, you know, like that was everything, that was something for everyone, right? For the art critic and historian down to, yes, the kid or maybe the young designer, you know, like that wants to dig into new ways of understanding calligraphy.
So you see that different circles are trying their best in order to reach a bigger audience. That's the beautiful part of it. Not only the Forbidden City or Xu Bing, but also, you know, the Mogao Grotto. If you go to the Mogao Grotto in Gansu province, they're also trying to put it into the digital exhibition. They try to preserve what is there on the wall for hundreds and even 1,000 years digitally in order to make sure the offsprings of us would still be able to have an access to it.
Same with martial arts.
Exactly.
There's a movement in Hong Kong to digitalize as many different styles of martial art as possible using motion capture. So it's another way that we're trying to hold on to these things.
In movies too, Professor Tang, I mean, if you think about how the old Chinese movies are being recycled, quote unquote, and being repaired now, and so that they could be shown to the public. The real essence of a Chinese movie in the 1920s, 1930s was amazing these days when you look at them.
Well, let's take the martial arts film, for example. Right, back in the 1920s, it was always this very kind of superstitious, gravity-defying flying warriors on treetops.
Still now, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Well, that was 2020, and it was quickly out of fashion.
It
was quickly out of fashion, right? And so I was teaching that film, in fact, right? But then that's one step to revitalize that. But then eventually martial arts has been used to critique and to reflect upon the Chinese history. I mean, like Shaolin Tzu, starring Jet Li. I mean, it's all about this kind of a turmoil and turbulence time in Chinese history. But then once again, see, martial arts can help to shed lights on the core values, sometimes, for example, harmony, and piety, courtesy, and the respect by rules, the respect of rules.
So exactly, as you said, whether it's a little cartoon character we're seeing on the little table there, or a martial art movie, or the digitalization of all the collection of the Forbidden City, they're serving as a door opener for all of us about the real culture we should really have access to. Well said by the three of you. And now we're also joined in New York by Kim Dreamer, a Chinese archaeology specialist. Kim, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
I know you've been doing a lot of work, Kim, in museums around the United States, trying to promote Chinese culture. Help us to understand, when you look at the Forbidden City, their way of trying to promote what's inside that wonderful palace. Is there anything for you to work as inspiration, or is there some experience that you would like to share with us about your approach?
Well, when you speak about the collections in the Palace Museum, they are housed within the Forbidden City. And the Forbidden City is an emotional touchstone in Chinese history. It's at the Forbidden City where many very important events in Chinese history unfold. So it's always important to make those connections when you are dealing with the collection.
When you are doing your work inside New York or beyond, how are you trying to help us, many others around the world, understand the Chinese culture? I mean, after all, it is so much in abundance, and everything has their own spirit in a way. So how would you be able to do your work in that sense?
Well, I think that the objects are beautiful intrinsically. Nobody can beat the Chinese for craftsmanship, certainly. And I think we see this in the restoration, the wonderful restoration of objects in the collection. But I think as a curator, one's obligation is to educate, and that is best done by contextualizing objects, by placing them with other important objects that amplify their importance, and by providing a text for non-Chinese speaking audiences. It's very important for the curator to bear the uninitiated in mind as well as the expert.
One of the things about the Forbidden City collection, of course, is about the artisanship. And as you may know, Kim, in China, even on the Chinese TV, there's documentaries talking about how the artists are working their way in order to make sure all the objects are being made in such a delicate and sophisticated way. So what about that? Is that going to be one of the most important elements when you're looking at it from afar?
We have people who are still able to maintain this high level of craftsmanship. So when different rooms in the Forbidden City have been restored, they haven't just been restored, but they've been totally renewed with authentic materials and craftsmanship that are really only available in China. Nobody can really match the Chinese for this, and it's all in-house, by which I mean China does not have to call in foreign experts. It has all the expertise and all the artisanship that it needs within the country itself.
But Kim, as you may know, the Forbidden City is not just about the dynasties. It's also about a very different stretch of Chinese history. I mean, including the past 200 years, since the end of the last dynasty, including even the history when China was occupied, when China was in war with the others who are coming into this country. So how do you tell a story about the Forbidden City and therefore be able to tell in its sophisticated way the history of a real China?
The objects within the collection are an emotional touchstone for the Chinese because the Forbidden City was the administrative center of China beginning in 1420 under the Yongle Emperor, who's a Ming Dynasty emperor. At that juncture, China is, I could argue, at its height. During the reign of the Yongle Emperor, a maritime expedition under Admiral Zhang He is sent out from China and actually reaches the coast of Africa and the Middle East. At the same time, the last emperor lives in the Palace Museum until very, very late. And it's in 1925 that in the Republic of China, the palace becomes a museum belonging to the people. And so that link between the current and the past. So I think this is very important, and I think we will see again and again the connections made between China's rise as a superpower and its past role as a superpower, but with a Chinese stamp. I think we can argue that the objects we see in the collection of the Palace Museum can be used as an expression, a sort of nugget expressing Chinese values of harmony and respect. I think it's very important. And I think we know that the Palace Museum is the most popular museum in the world, not just among the Chinese, but among international travelers. But certainly for the Chinese themselves, this collection is an emotional touchstone because of its connection with Chinese history.
Kim Dramer, a Chinese archaeology specialist, coming to us from New York. Thank you so much, Kim. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
新年快乐。
谢谢你。新年快乐。
Sure, thanks.
And now we're coming back to our discussion with Andrew, Beatrice, and Tom Jimong. Earlier, Kim is helping me to understand her way of seeing the Forbidden City. Namely, it is quite a demonstration of Chinese history through hundreds of years, and also, in a way, reflected how China rose in the world, and how is that likely to be compared to today's China. It's very interesting she used a political analysis in that way. But for us, I mean, the discussion here, it's really about how to appreciate the culture that we had, and how to make sure we also give access to the others who can have their own version of appreciation of that culture. And that also has to do with the younger generation in a way. I mean, look at us, we are probably in our 30s, 40s, and, you know, but, you know, a very young generation of kids, they grew up with iPhones and iPhones and iPhones. So what are the things that really make sense to them? How can we read their mind and be able to bring the best thing as we see it to them? Also is a thing that I guess we have to think about. Andrew? Never thought about it?
Nope.
You think it would transcend generations?
I think it should. I mean, again, whether we're looking at young Chinese or foreigners, again, the way that I see it, it comes back to accessibility. We have to give value to the culture. We have to show how it applies to the people themselves. So it's value and accessibility. If you give people those two things, they will want to come back to the culture.
Well said, Professor Teng.
Well, I would add affordability, because some people had to try all the way and travel all the way from across China to see this very place in their own eyes. But now with the technology, they can see all the artifacts on their iPhones. So iPhone is great. iPhone is going to reveal this very feng shui, this very central access, this very great architecture to them all. And so I would applaud that with the addition of this very technology, great artifacts, great art culture, and great values being exposed to this very young generation.
Last but not least, Beatrice.
Well, I will diplomatically disagree, in a sense that I agree accessibility and affordability are key. That can be achieved with that, fantastic. I think engagement with culture is something else. And it needs to, I think the real challenge is actually how do we perhaps show something, or show this younger generation something that they wouldn't expect.
How?
So how do we create
how?
a different level of engagement?
So how?
That is not a phone.
So how?
Well, if I were me, and if we want to go back to the subject of tonight, let's say the Forbidden City, such a huge and very present institution in the city, I would bring them back offline. You know, like there's so much that could be made happen in these grand workshops, you know, that is from the city. I think encounter with culture is very much a matter of its visual and material form. So I think it needs that. And I wouldn't say probably that younger generation would know, and then maybe they'd be, you know, like surprised and not to be offered an easy entry, you know, like into it. So perhaps perhaps there's something, like to think about. So.
Very interesting. I love the debate already going on, and unfortunately we're running out of time. I'm sure we had a whole year to at least for us to discuss about that and beyond. For now, thank you so much for being with us, Andrew, Beatrice, and Cheng Jimeng. Really appreciate it, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year of you, and certainly to our audience as well. And with that, we have the program for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Inside CGTN into your search engine, or check out our YouTube channel. Also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Inside team, thanks for watching, and have a great Chinese New Year. Bye for now. Thank you.
I'm Ilham Aliyev, President of Azerbaijan. Happy Chinese New Year. Xin Nan Hao.
I'm the Finnish President visiting Beijing. I want to wish you Happy New Year. Happy Year of Pig.
On behalf of the people of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan, I must extend my heartfelt felicitations to the government of China and the People's Republic of China and the people of China on the Lunar Year and the Spring Festival.
I'm Marian Šarec, Prime Minister of Slovenia, and I wish you a happy, prosperous Chinese New Year. All the best.
Let me take this opportunity to wish a very happy New Year. Let's work together to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China later in the year.
I'm Hilde Schwab, the chairwoman of the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. Happy Chinese New Year.
On behalf of the National Assembly of the Republic of Namibia, and on behalf of my colleagues, parliamentarians, and the country known as Namibia, we extend our best wishes to the Chinese people on the occasion of marking the New Year.